26th event in the Attribution Revolution series, something like that, our first on mobile. Thank you so much for coming. First of all, for those of you that are standing, I see 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seats over here. So if any of you would like a seat, please come. I see more than 10 people over there. Some of you should come in. All right.
One really good seat.
Yeah, there's one here. Yeah. All right, not going to happen. It's wonderful to see. So for those of you that don't know, every single person who has a seat here is a media buyer, works for an agency, clients. There are no vendors in the house at all other than the people on the panel. It's great to see all of you here, and we really appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. I'd like a round of applause for all of you. We have an unbelievably great panel for you tonight. I'm going to introduce the speakers in a minute, but before that, we prepared a little video as an intro about what we're going to talk about. So I'd love to roll that video whenever you're ready. Good to go? Yes. Roll video.
Mobile is on track to become the largest player in the digital ecosystem. And it's predicted to represent 70% of all media spending by 2018. A multi-device world gives consumers more touchpoints than ever before and offers marketers increasing opportunities to reach audiences as they research, browse, and purchase online. But the path to purchase is no longer linear, and instead mirrors a flight map as consumers move between devices and screens.
Ago, there was no problem because most users were only using a single digitally connected device. Now we have tablets and smartphones and wearables and TVs all on top of the computers that we use every day. And for a marketer, that makes understanding the user's behavior very difficult.
So mobile provides this sort of multi-dimensional view of a consumer and the ability to connect with them multiple times throughout their day. Whether it be television, whether it be display, whether it be visitation to a physical store, mobile provides this unifying mechanism for attribution. For marketers, that's an incredibly powerful new platform.
The biggest challenge that marketers face when it comes to this multi-screen journey is understanding and anticipating where the user is in their day and showing them the right message at the right time. In a study we recently did, 71% of consumers said they had a negative reaction if they got an inconsistent message across devices. So marketers really need to focus on finding that user, understanding them across all of their devices, and making that message consistent.
You have to take into account the different devices people are using, or you'll have an incomplete picture. Users are seeing a stream of media, and to really understand performance, you have to determine how to fractionally allocate credit accurately across that stream of media.
So think about the ability to run a mobile campaign, target 8 million devices, each one in a contextually relevant, really meaningful way, and then be able to measure the effectiveness of that campaign, of that messaging, to drive those consumers to a particular store. If you understand mobile, you can now understand the consumer and their interactions across these different touch points.
If you're a marketer that's buying a lot of mobile activity, more than likely that conversion's not happening on the mobile device. So you're driving great influence in the purchase process, but the conversion's happening somewhere else. If you're using a last touch, last click model, and you're not taking into account cross-device influences, you're never going to be able to do mobile marketing well. If you're really looking at mobile as a channel that you want to use, you need to have a measurement platform that works with your media efforts to ensure that you understand the real credit that mobile's getting.
All right. So if you came here for anything else, it's time to go. So let's introduce the panelists. All of you come out. Dwight, why don't you come out first? It would not be a mobile panel without Facebook. Facebook, I realized just today, I can't think of another company that started out in desktop and now is bigger in mobile. I don't think there is one. We have, so I don't really need to tell you more about Facebook. It's a social network.
You may have heard of it. We're starting to get big.
Yeah. Duncan is with PlaceIQ. They really focus on location and what location means in all of your ad campaigns. They've got interesting analytics. The mobile, the ability to deliver your ads in the right location is what they're all about. But they do a lot more than that, and I'm sure that is going to come out in the panel. Paul, who is a veteran of these things, because he used to be with Adometry, still is with Adometry, CEO of Adometry. And so our first series of panels, founding member, was about attribution, hence the name Attribution Revolution, and he was with all of those. He's back now with Google. Adometry was bought by Google. And again, you know, if you're going to talk about mobile, you kind of have to have Facebook and Google at the table. So really appreciate both of you coming. And then we have Nick from Tapad. So, you know, an unbelievably hot topic that I think Paul actually did a great soundbite at the end of that. If you're not looking at cross-device, which is what Tapad really empowers you to do, then you're going to have a very hard time figuring out whether your mobile company works or not. So we got two big companies. It's hard for me to say that PlaceIQ and Tapad aren't also big, but you're not big like that.
Relatively.
So a great panel. The format of the panel this evening, just so you're all prepared, we love audience interaction. So a lot of times these panels, we go through the panel and then we say, you know, have you got any questions? What we're going to do is after each subject, I'm going to go out to you so that you can ask questions about what we're talking about at that moment. So far, every other audience has been great participators. I hope you've drunk enough that you have you can participate as well.
We are, so.
There you go. So I'm going to start out, Dwight, I'm going to start out with you again, because Facebook made up stat, only company that bigger than mobile from desktop. Don't know if it's true. I'm going to say it is. You can call bullshit on it later. Go to Google and figure out what I'm right or wrong.
Yeah. So I mean, very quickly to talk to that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a little famous how we turned around and trained every single engineer on mobile, but even how fast mobile's become the most important channel for us. It frankly took us by surprise. There's a wealth of literature how from Delhi to Kenya, mobile has leapfrogged and now is the single most important touch point for reach among the larger population. But even in America, I can't share exact internal numbers, but there was a ComScore study that was just released. Mobile is the single biggest time spent for all of America. Facebook is 35 minutes mobile versus 15 minutes desktop. Google, it's similar. It's 7 minutes mobile versus 5 minutes desktop. Every single major player is now bigger on mobile by time spent than on desktop. It is the #1 challenge.
And, you know, to state the obvious, you're all media buyers out there. I can guarantee you that your media budgets are not bigger on mobile than on desktop. So, welcome to the new reality. The next thing, let's talk a little bit about what mobile's good at and not good at. Duncan, I'm going to go to you to talk about the good, and then Paul, I'm going to have you go and tell us the bad. Because, you know, it's not the same as working at your computer as a computer. So, Duncan, what's it good at? What sort of things should you be doing on mobile? And then, Paul, you can juxtapose that. Maybe you can just...
I think it's an interesting contrast to think about the good and the bad, right? So people often think about mobile as great, it's this fantastic new channel, it's good for everything, we can shove everything in it that we took from these other existing mediums, but we all kind of inherently know ourselves, because we all live this reality, that it doesn't quite work like that, right? Mobile has some tremendously powerful constructs around this idea of, it is context aware. You know what you're doing, right? Are you browsing? Are you on online banking? Are you playing a game? Are you searching for something right now? And of course, it's location aware. So suddenly you can understand where somebody is in their consumer journey. If it's a Sunday morning and they're lying on their couch because they're in a residential area, you probably have an opportunity to speak to them very differently than it's a Friday night and they're trying to find a snippet of information before they dive into a sushi restaurant or they meet up with their friends. So it's very good at surfacing context and meaning about a consumer. The reality to be able to say, I can now really understand where this consumer is in the funnel, in the purchase funnel, their likely context, their likely behavior. So it's very good at delivering those types of quick messages, the ability to say, I can now find somebody in a store. I should speak to that person in a store very, very differently so that I speak to that person when they're researching at home. So imagine, mobile now enables you to think of the retail reality. I now know this consumer is a loyal customer of my store because I see them coming many times. I have an opportunity to message them one way when they're in my store, but now imagine now I see them in a competing store. I probably want to message them in a very different way. So imagine that paradigm where mobile gives you this almost sensor-like understanding of consumers and their behavior. That's one of the key unique aspects of mobile. I think if you think about that, there's a lot of very, very powerful elements you can apply to it.
It's important to talk about the good without the bad.
Yeah, I think, so what's interesting about that comment, when I think about mobile, and I think we have this challenge in everything around digital media, is we're always diving to the bottom of the funnel. So all of that is like bottom of the funnel marketing activity, and all that stuff sounds really great, but if you look at the world's biggest advertisers, that's not what they're spending their dollars to do. They're not focused on those individual marketing efforts to get someone in the store to kind of buy this product versus that product. They want to build awareness and brand and kind of expand the market. And it's unclear, I would say now, if mobile is actually good at that or not. You could say things around mobile that, you know, it's a small screen, you don't have the flexibility to add units, but I actually can't say that anymore. I actually find myself looking at the mobile ad units you see on your phone as being actually better in some cases. They stand out more than what you might see on the desktop. So I think in some ways that lack of real estate actually works in the favor now of the advertiser. But I think there's that aspect of we can't just dive to the bottom of the funnel. We need to focus on where most of the dollars are spent, which is on that awareness building, that brand building. And like I said, it's unclear if mobile's good at that or not. The other thing that is obvious that mobile's not good at is generally driving a conversion in the traditional direct response way. So I'm seeing a ton of Progressive insurance ads on my mobile device. They're incredibly impactful. I'm remembering them. But I'm not going to use my mobile phone to fill out an auto insurance quote form. It's a long process to take. I'm probably going to go back to my PC to do that. Or, God forbid, actually pick up the phone and talk to someone. So, you know, that aspect of it gets back to if you're not tracking that kind of activity across devices, you're really missing the opportunity. So it's not that mobile's bad, but like I said, I really think it comes down to, is it really that effective? Are we building the right kind of ad units, taking advantage of all this data to really build awareness for the product? Can it be a awareness-driving channel for us?
Maybe just quickly respond to that. So I think that's a really interesting point. One of the things we first learned when we went out with this story around location being so much more than geofencing and proximity, we go and talk to automotive clients, and you talk about the ability for mobile to build awareness and behavioral audiences. And then you would say something, oh, and we can message people when they're on the lot. And they would immediately go down to the bottom of the funnel. I want to defend my lots. I want to conquest people. And you would say, well, that's just one piece. If you're messaging them just at the points of purchase, you're missing the whole consumer journey. But there was always the shiny object that people gravitated on. It took us a while to be able to no, there's more than that. Let's paint the bigger picture.
Right, and automotive is a great example. We have a lot of automotive clients for our attribution service, and it makes sense, but it's always about driving conversion events, like does someone configure a car, do they request a dealer quote? And that's a small part of the overall marketing mix of what automotive companies are looking for. I mean, people buy a new car once every 5 to 7 years, or maybe they're leasing a car every 3 years, and the amount of marketing effort to get someone to think that a BMW is the car that I want to own, or that a BMW Mini, or whatever car is your choice, the brand effort that goes in to build that awareness to get someone to want to pay $50,000 for something when a $20,000 car would do the same function, that's not something that happens. You're not going to convince someone to make that switch or look at that $50,000 car when they're on the lot of a $20,000 car. So it's that aspect, I think, is missing.
And it's probably indicative of the early stage. If you think back, for those of us that are old enough to have been in the internet in the 90s.
We're always diving to the bottom of the funnel.
Everything started as bottom of the funnel.
It's perverse that someone from Google is saying that. We're always diving to the bottom of the funnel. But
there was internet in the 90s.
There was a long time ago.
So this is going to be my last question before I go out to you guys in the audience. I want to talk, so that's a great intro. What's it good at, what's it bad at, why it's important. Now let's talk about the difference between, I think that we haven't heard much from the US.
I'm just comic relief up here.
Fantastic. So you're going to give us a little comedy routine on the difference between cross-device strategy and mobile strategy.
Yeah,
because they are not the same.
Yeah, I think we've been talking a lot about mobile strategies up here, but mobile is only a piece of the puzzle. If you're really only looking at the mobile piece of your buy, you're missing a huge chunk of it. I mean, Paul, you mentioned cross-device in what you were saying. Mobile phones, especially, are not a great transactional platform. Apple Pay and all these other things may ultimately change that, but it's not easy to apply for a credit card, get an insurance policy, set up a test drive, and all these other things on a mobile phone. And so a lot of your traditional marketers and traditional advertisers are trying to squeeze in these crazy campaigns where it's, you know, I'm Ford and I want someone to download an app on their phone so they can ultimately configure a car. And suddenly downloading an app becomes the success metric for the campaign. And that doesn't make any sense. You know, the app may not be the right context by which you actually do this. And so as we think about cross-device, we really think of mobile as a piece of the pie, and often an upper funnel piece of the pie. But ultimately, you want to drive people down to a different place where it's actually much easier to transact on a tablet, on a computer, on, you know, somewhere else where they have transacted traditionally. So understanding that consumer and marketing to that consumer and ignoring, not so much ignoring, but not targeting specifically the device that they're on becomes ultimately the most important thing you can do.
Well, ultimately, cross-device continues to expand, right? We're not that far off from our TV being a connected device.
Completely.
And then you start to bring that into the mix. If we look at the number of devices we all have here personally that we're all using, I'm sure it's a greater number than we had 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So the number of devices proliferating across the device will continue as well.
And Dwight, Facebook. So I mean, you've launched that ability to record, analyze, and speak to the device. Kind of an important thing for Facebook.
Definitely. Actually, my team launched our cross-device about a month ago. For Facebook, this is not representative of everyone, but about a third of the conversions that we attribute to mobile end up being done on desktop. It gets closer to 50% when you start doing offline conversions. So I'd say even more than cross-device, you really need to start linking it to quantitative outcomes in the dealership at the register. And that's where you start really revealing the full power of, did this top of funnel BMW brand ad actually sell a car even if 6 months later? So I really think it's not whether they're different strategies, but if you don't have a cross-device strategy, you don't have a mobile strategy. You're missing where your real dollars are going. And if you look at the stats, it's 40% of product decisions that are begun on mobile, where you start researching it. And it's something like 2/3 of adults are now using multiple devices and complete their action on the second device.
So let's now go over to you guys. So we did a little intro. We've talked a little bit about the difference between cross-device and mobile. I have a whole bunch of questions here already. But how about questions from you? Someone who's going to be the first person to break the ice? Yes, thank you. Can you tell me your name? Actually, 1 second, we've got a little mic for you. There we go. Your name, who you're with, and your question.
No question. So I actually work in mobile technology, and one of the biggest frustrations that I have currently is...
Where do you work?
Oh, I'm sorry. I work at FCB Health.
Great. Fantastic.
And one of the biggest challenges that I have is that despite the fact that there are a lot of creative ways to create digital banners and things of that nature, publishers are still using Flash. So what do you guys see happening in the future with publishers and using more innovative forms of animated banners on mobile technology?
Any of you want to say that? What do you want to have a shot?
I'm not an expert on it.
No?
I think, so I think there's two elements that I've experienced in this. I think there's the messaging and the type of the actual creative itself, and then there's the format. So if you break those two apart, so when we first started experimenting, so back to this auto example, we went to, I remember the very first sort of sophisticated auto client we went to, and we talked about this idea, we can message people throughout the consumer journey, different when they're on the lot, different if they own the car, if they're in market, if they've been to the mall recently, been to the beach recently. We've got all these moments, and the client said, okay, here's the banner, here's one banner. And you said, well, what's the point of all this different targeting if you're not going to speak to people differently? And now we have campaigns whereby we're starting to speak to people differently, not just in terms of the type of creative, but the messaging. You think of auto, you can start to find someone who's a passionate recreationalist, and you talk to them about a Jeep Cherokee very differently because they go into the woods with it than somebody who goes shopping all the time with it. So that itself was even a huge barrier for us to get over, to say you can actually talk to your clients, to your consumers differently. So that was one barrier, just the actual creative and the messaging within it. Then the other barrier we start to see slowly changing was the formats, right? Was the standard, got to be standard IB formats, and was it rich media? And so we start to see I would say, the food chain we've seen is You start to see the vendors and suppliers with technology and innovative ideas. Then you start to see the agencies and the clients start to demand it. And then you see the publishers start to support it. But if you think of Adweek, we just went through the whole front of Adweek. The constant theme that we continually heard on every single panel was data and targeting and abilities always outstrip creative and creative strategies. And I think the conclusions that I heard from the panels there was, that's just the way the world is. Creative always seems to come last. And I haven't seen anybody turn that on its head. I don't know if you guys have, in terms of, let's innovate from creative back. But we've always experienced the creative as the last thing that gets dragged up through, which has been frustrating, but we've kind of accepted it as a reality.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're seeing, and this drives me crazy to no end, is everyone talks about mobile first. So now that we're doing mobile advertising, we'll just build all of our creatives to be really small, and then we'll make them much bigger on bigger screens. And it's just not an effective way to think about it. What you really want is a seamless experience, no matter what device the person is on. But it doesn't mean that you want to take a single piece of creative and just resize it. You really need to have what I'm going to call native creatives, and I don't mean it native in a sort of Facebook sense, but whatever the device that you're using, the creative needs to feel comfortable on that device, be it swipeable, the size of the screen it takes up, how the rich media actually interacts. I can't speak specifically to the Flash problem. I thought that was a thing of the past, so maybe we should talk after this because we can go talk to those publishers. But instead of just thinking about mobile as the same as display but smaller, or the same as video is smaller, we really need to think of it as a different experience that the user is in the middle of, and tailor that creative experience to that user.
Yeah. At the risk of joining on the panels or something. I think, from Magnetic's point of view, we had a dynamic creative product that was built in Flash, and having in the end moved it to HTML5. And I think as a buyer, you could just insist. At this point, it was a long time ago that everyone said, the hell with Flash. And if they can't give you a date when they're going to be able to support it, I would tell you that you should probably not be buying this one that's that far behind the curve. Sorry. Any other questions before we move on to the next topic? Yes, no, maybe. Yes, right over here. Fantastic. And again, if you could tell us your name and where you work so that we can put some relevance to that, that'd be great.
My name is Roy Yao. I am a business analyst for DirecTV, and my focus is digital online acquisition. I'm specifically interested in cross-device tracking. I would like to get more detail into it. I want to understand how you track a prospect cross-devices. Let me give you a recent example. We had a new product launched. We saw a lot of traffic coming from display mobile, but the conversion, the click-through conversion, extremely low. But look into the sales come from desktop, and it looks like it comes from SEO, some SEM, and most likely direct traffic. Especially for the direct traffic part, it seems it's impossible for analysts to say whether it's driven by display or something else. So I want to understand how you do that. And this is acquisition. So prospect, we do not have customer ID.
I'm going to put you on hold for a second.
This is where we're supposed to fight.
But yeah, so this is, I want to, give it back the mic. Okay. Because this is, please. Thank you very much. Sorry for being with you. We have a question that we want to cover. I want to cover it first, and then I want to make sure we've answered the question. So the first question is, how do you do device tracking? So there's a probabilistic way to do it. Here is my star of probabilistic. And there's a deterministic way to do it. And I got kind of 2 stars of deterministic, Facebook and Google.
Which is unfair, by the way.
It is, so Dwight, just let Google take this one. So, I'd love you guys to discuss a little bit about the difference, the pros, the cons, and then when we've discussed that, let's make sure we answer your question. Right? So let's do the groundwork first.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So as James said, there's two ways to do that, and there's pluses and minuses to each approach. So deterministic is using actual real login data. So at Google or at Facebook or at lots of other sites, you're consuming content from those sites across your different devices. And so those underlying companies know your device graph. So at Google's example, we see you logging into Gmail across your different devices, or we see you in a logged in state doing searches across your different devices. So we know that this iOS ID, this Android ID, this series of cookies all represent the same user. And so we can map that, and it tends to be very accurate. The issue with deterministic data is having enough scale or reach. Companies like Google and Facebook obviously have that. We have lots of users that are logging in using our products. Facebook has the same thing. And so, and Adometry, we know this issue really well. We were great partners of Tapad up until May 5th of this year, the day that we got acquired by Google. And
I'm glad everyone knows that now.
No, it's true. We still love Tapad. Tapad's there's a lot of pluses and minuses to it. As a standalone third-party company, we felt Tapad was the best resource that we could have without having data ourselves. Being part of Google, we don't need to leverage that data. We can leverage a source of data, deterministic, much more accurate data that has really strong reach and scale that can give us that accurate data. And so, it's pretty simplistic. Instead of using a cookie, which is 2 years ago what we all used to identify really a device, which we use as a proxy for a user, now you build a universal ID where you map all these different device IDs and cookies, and you say all of those represent the user. So if we see media from any of those device IDs or cookies, we can tie it, or conversions, we can tie it all back to the same user. And essentially, when we're running attribution, we just run it off with a different unique identifier, that universal ID, instead of what we had done 2 years ago, which was doing it with a cookie.
So Paul, will you sell me your data?
No. Neither will Facebook, by the way. Here's the thing that
I will.
So fortunately, Magnetic's integrated with Tapad, just like Adometry was before. By the way,
I think Google sees it as an...
Please don't get acquired by Google.
you saw your company on my birthday.
That's a great group.
It's a great day.
The issue is Google, and I'm sure Facebook the same thing, sees this deterministic data is incredibly valuable and also incredibly sensitive. And so we're being incredibly cautious in how we use this data. So Adometry is now inside the firewall of Google, so we can get all this raw data and use it. But we're going to provide aggregate reporting out to customers. We're not going to provide that raw data because we don't want to allow other folks to be able to kind of reverse engineer or kind of build that device graph. Because we think from a privacy standpoint,
we'll all make money from it.
Well, we want to leverage reverse. Damn straight, right? We have an advantage. The other attribution providers don't have this kind of accurate data. It gives us an advantage when we're selling attribution solutions. We want to leverage that.
It's what we call a walled garden, right?
They've got
a great asset, and so if anyone wants it, you got to go through them.
Yeah. And it's a hell of a walled garden.
I would love Facebook's data set. I would like Google's data set.
Yeah, look at that. Facebook's better.
I actually agree with you. So let me talk a little bit about how Tapad does what it does before we get into sort of the pros and cons of some of these things. So,
and then Dwight, I'm going to have you answer a question.
So Tapad, not very many people come to Tapad and log in. It was like 4 in the last 6 months. If you're in this room, thank you. See, I will give out internal numbers too.
4.
Literally. So basically what we do is we look at people's behaviors across all of the devices. And our primary thesis is people are creatures of habit. So all of my devices tend to go along with each other everywhere I go. And that means they connect to the same Wi-Fi networks. They're connected, and you see me travel from different city to different city. I also consume very similar content. I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. I'm judging by the size of this room, there's not one other Buffalo Bills fan.
Any Buffalo Bills fan in the room? Yes! We got one over there.
Really? We also need to talk after this. All right, so
close to 0.
There's 2 of us.
Approaching 0.
And other than today, I don't think I've ever met you. Other than today, I don't think any of our devices have ever connected to the same network. Right? There's also a bunch of time-based cues. I tend to wake up around 5 a.m. every day. All of my devices wake up with me. So basically what we can see is as we look across trillions of data points over months, is we can say, hey, these devices have very similar behaviors, and therefore we're fairly confident that they're actually the same person. We've had some third parties, people with this deterministic data, the holy grail of data, actually look at our models and say we get it right about 89% of the time. That doesn't mean we get it wrong 11% of the time. 10.5% of the time we still venture a guess because we have confusing signals, we have confusing data, our models can't figure out it, etc. And about 0.5% of the time we actually get it wrong. So 2 devices belong to one person and we say they belong to 2 other people. And I'm convinced those are shared devices and our technology is perfect and everything's the nice thing about our model is, one, we have massive scale because we can collect data across a variety of places. 2, I would argue, and I am a Gmail user, so I do like Google services, that there's a bit of a social contract that I have with Google when I sign up for Gmail. I sign up for Gmail so I can send emails to my friends and family. And now they're basically taking that data and saying, okay, we're gonna tie this across all of these accounts and do all of these things with it. And I think that breaks a bit of a social contract. So from a privacy perspective, I actually think probabilistic is a little bit better because it's not this idealist, idyllic data set that you can actually tie these things together. Furthermore, deterministic is great. There's no doubt about it. From a pure accuracy perspective, it's awesome. As a Gmail user, I log into Gmail on my computer all the time. I should have a tablet because I work at a cross-device company. I don't, but I'm sure I would log in and on my tablet all the time as well. But when I log into Gmail on my phone, I do it through IMAP, through the Apple Mail services, which means you don't actually get access to my PlaceIQ. And so while you have great scale with Gmail at 35–40% of the US market, you don't have perfect scale, which is why I like Facebook data better because everyone has Facebook. Well, I don't either. Strangely, so. I'm an outlier. I think
we already established you were an outlier when we found you about those.
On the chart, I'm in this really weird 3-dimensional corner that no one's even close to. And I think the last thing that's beneficial about what we do is we really see ourselves as an open ecosystem. So we're licensing our technology and our data to companies like Magnetic. We have our own media business. One of the great things about display and video advertising is it's not closed like search and like social. If you want to do social, you've got 3 doors you have to go knock on. If you want to do search, you maybe have 2 doors. It's really only 1. We think display is great because it's a much more open ecosystem, and our technology actually lets us take this cross-device data that we have and plug it into the rest of the ecosystem so everyone can benefit without having all of their dollars flow through the 2 biggest companies in the market.
So I guess let me respond to a few of those. So
I'm still waiting.
I got Facebook and Google at the same time. So I use Gmail as an illustrative example.
Yeah, again, unfair.
Yes. We have lots of other ways we're collecting the data. It's not just through Gmail. It's just one way to do it. It's all deterministic. I think from a privacy standpoint, the reality is consumers know they can go to Google and they can proactively opt out of this, and they know it's something that Google's tracking. I think the challenge, and again, it's not saying that this is not something that has been specifically that we can't do. I think it's just when we look at it, I think it's a gray area, or an area could become a gray area, which is no one knows who Tapad is. So you're collecting all this data and you're building these profiles, and users out there just don't even know that that's happening. Whereas at least with Google or with Facebook, I can go in, review the privacy policy. If I'm one of those privacy zealots who's really concerned about this stuff, I can specifically opt out and make sure that's not tracking. Now, those folks can come to Tapad and do the same thing. I'm sure you have a great privacy policy.
By that definition, Lycos would still be the only search engine that could do anything, because who knew of Google when it was only 2 people in a garage that were serving search engines? I'm
just saying right now, if you're collecting the data the way you are, I don't have any way of knowing that that's happening.
I'm just stepping over any lines here.
Ding, ding. Extra points for Lycos.
I did used to work at Lycos. That meant something. Yeah. Really struck the nerves there.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you guys to step down for a second. And Dwight, maybe you could actually answer. Now because we got some framework now to answer your question, right? So we have someone from DirecTV would actually like to have a question answered. And we still got the mic, so that if we don't answer it, you can do a follow-up. You've waited.
Yeah, really only 2 points I'd add there. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the deterministic idea. I do think statistical is tremendously powerful as well. It does turn out 20% of the US population is not logged into Facebook, which we're actively trying to fix. But besides that, so one of the things that we do think is interesting is not only which device you're on, but which app you're in. So you could be logged into Chrome, and that's all well and good, but let's say you just open up the Amazon app and purchase that, or the DirecTV app to make the purchase. Unless you've got an SDK integration or a previous arrangement with Google Measurement, you're not going to be able to see any of those conversions. So we're particularly proud of Facebook. We have, of the top 2,000 apps, 90% coverage with SDK integration or app opens, app activity, and we can use that to inform both our ad serving and our measurement. Secondarily, there's a huge problem where obviously the identity of each user is critical. That's table stakes. Who is this person that showed up on another device? Have they seen an ad? But then, what's the correct attribution? And that's sort of the crux of the problem. It's different for every single advertiser. You can't do multi-mix modeling easily. You can't come up with a rule of thumb where if it's the same day view-through and 7 days later after a click-through, it's accurate. It really depends on the advertiser. So what we've actually taken to doing is doing causal empirical tests in which we create a control group, which demographically, population, activity-based is identical to a treatment group. Show one ads, show the other placebos that are like Smokey the Bear, Save the Forest, and then actually measure the incremental lift with our partner. We've been able to show they're completely different results than they are expecting. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Empirical testing really is the only way we've been able to determine what causal attribution truly is occurring.
So, did that answer your question? Do you want to follow up?
They're going to follow up later.
You're going to follow up later?
So let me, I actually have that I think should be relevant to you. I have an attribution example that I think is nothing to do with this discussion you guys are having, which is we just announced.
Thanks. That's a great segue.
I want to be involved with the deterministic probabilistic piece.
Already someone get that person a drink.
So you're from DirecTV. We actually announced last week, or whatever ad week was, it's already a blur, some TV attribution products. So we've actually measured television tune-in from mobile. So we actually have a relationship with Rentrack. Rentrack has 60 million set-top boxes in the US. They have their software running on those boxes. We're able to match those television sets, those boxes, to mobile devices. We're now able to say, let's look at the behavior of those mobile devices. These devices are behaving in the physical world in a way that makes us think they're sports fans. They also watch sports television networks. We're very confident they're sports fans. They don't, however, watch a television network, and this is a real case study that we're representing, and we're going to show them an intelligent, contextually targeted ad to tune in to this television network. So, this is a product I was very excited about, the idea that we're not going to try and sell you something on the phone, we're going to tell you about content you likely already have, and we're going to ask you to tune in. And the most exciting thing was we could actually do measurement. We announced this at Ad Week with Rentrack, and we were able to run a campaign where we exposed large numbers of households to advertisements, tune into a TV show, and then Rentrack did the actual measurement and found that the people that received the mobile ads ended up tuning in 25% more than a control group that looked exactly the same that didn't. And we're also able to see they had about 20% more engagement. So suddenly you think about mobile and attribution and measurement. Mobile enables the ability to now attribute television. And the first product was television tune-in. There's another product I'll maybe talk about later, but that was really exciting for us to say, let's sidestep, cross-device is great, but think of television. That's a device that tremendous amounts of people watch, but still has a huge amount of money associated with it. And tune-in is a very clear, huge amount of money spent in tune-in. We were able to prove a mobile advertisement could actually incur greater tune-in. And that was a pretty exciting moment for us in terms of measurement and attribution as it pertains to mobile.
So that's one of the questions we've got, which we're going to discuss tonight. So let's go there. It was you two, you've already both talked about it, so see if we want to talk about it more. Is, how does mobile help attribution? And I'm sure Paul will weigh in as well, because that's what Adometry does. But mobile gives you this ability to actually do a different kind of attribution in the physical world, right? Because mostly we're thinking about what ads we're seeing, but now you can actually see where the phone is, right? So you want to talk to us about other examples of physical attribution, and then Dwight, weigh in and then talk to about. You already talked a little bit about the difference between causal and non-causal, but let's talk about those two topics.
So absolutely. So I think for us, So if you think of some of the things we've talked about thus far, I agree that mobile itself is not a strategy, right? It's a tactic. You've got to think about audiences first. Mobile happens to be a channel you can reach an audience on. But the thing that's unique about mobile is it's a sensor network that now 70% of the addressable population in this country carry with them, often sharing data, sharing locations, sharing their contact and things they're doing. And we had, about 2 years ago now, we had a retailer we were working with, a very big retailer, and they said to us, we've spent a grand total of $270,000 to date in mobile campaigns, and their digital budgets were huge. And we said, why is that? And they said, well, we still sell 98% of our stuff in physical stores. And it's very hard for us to, everybody keeps telling us that clicks on mobile devices is what we should look at. But we care about driving people in store. And they said to us, if you can find a way to measure the effect of mobile advertising to drive people into a physical store, we'll spend some money with it. So obviously the dollar signs are going up, and thought we can solve this problem. And we literally went back to the office and we drew a polygon around a bunch of their stores. This is a large big box retailer. We said, I wonder how many devices we see every week in this store. iOS and Android devices that people are opting in, sharing locations so we can plant them within this store, because it's a big store very accurately. And I remember very vividly, all these red dots flew up. I'm like, wow, there's a lot. I wonder, therefore, if we can measure, not on an individual store basis, but on a market level, all the people we touch with a mobile creative and a campaign, how many of them end up going to a store. And it worked. And this was 2 years ago on Black Friday. We ran a big campaign with this retailer, and we announced a whole bunch of press and articles on that age about this new KPI we created called Place Visit Rate, which now has almost become an industry standard. Google's adopted a similar one, Millennial, this company sprung up doing this, and that was just the beginning for us to say mobile itself as a sensor network can be used to attribute. One example, physical location. So we've run this for state tourism boards. For the state of Montana, there's a case study out whereby we're targeting people based upon their behaviors, fishing, skiing, hunting, biking, the types of people that might like to come to Montana, and then we're measuring for the next 6 months how many of those devices show up in Montana. Because if you end up in Montana, unlikely you just went there by random, you didn't fall into the state, you went to Montana, and it is in the middle, right? You know, you fly over it mostly, so that was one example. And then you now think of, we talked about attribution earlier, but you think of a mobile device as a key to understand a consumer. I'm not going to try and pretend that I can understand the multi-touch point variance of attribution, but if I show a consumer an advertisement for a CPG product, our company has the dunnhumby database, all the programmed supermarkets, so suddenly we can say, did a consumer go into a store and buy more product? Did they tune into a television show? Did they go to a location? So I think mobile is increasingly, it isn't a panacea, but it's increasingly enabling all these innovative ways to understand real measurable attribution, and it's getting more and more powerful.
Right, so it's another, mobile is another dimension to attribution that we don't usually think about. So, yeah, Dwight?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with measuring foot traffic. Absolutely, that's the way you're going to do it. Oh, that's incredible. The one thing I would add is especially, and this is back to the earlier comment, that mobile is not yet proven as a top of funnel. I couldn't disagree with that one. We've done a number of studies where very aspirational brand advertising, actually in the automotive space, has generated, when linked to not only foot traffic, but actual car purchases, 16x return on ad spend.
I guess just to make sure my point.
Yeah.
We were using the good versus bad. The example Duncan was using all this bottom of the funnel thing. I was emphasizing we need to look at the top of the funnel. I'm not saying mobile won't work or not. From my standpoint, is we need to focus on where the dollars are.
And what we've seen is that it is working.
That doesn't seem
so it really has to be done well. We had a famous case study where the biggest pizza retailer in Spain put up a pixel on their main order form, then ran $1,000 of ads and said, well, there's no difference in these two groups. And it's like, well, all of Spain just ordered your pizza from our measurement suite. Of course, this isn't going to work. So it needs to be done carefully, but it absolutely, when done right, should.
That is. It's always great to hear everyone talk about the word attribution, and to me that emphasizes
as an attribution company.
Yeah, as an attribution company, I think that's really important. But I think we're misusing the term a little bit. I think what Dwight's talking about is, kind of the individual studies that Facebook can do to justify buying more Facebook media. A lot of the stuff Google does as well. But an attribution measurement solution that we offer is really about looking at all media activity, user level activity. Looking at a user across devices is a way that we make our attribution solution more accurate. It's a small component of what we do. Just as looking at offline conversions at a user level makes our solution more accurate, we do that as well. We work with LiveRamp or Data Logics to take data that's available at a household level, so conversions that are happening at a household level, map it to our cookie so that we can show attribution. We've done that for a number of clients. Great examples, Michael's, a retailer. Michael's doesn't actually have an e-commerce site, but they know the name and address of all the people that buy stuff in their stores, and we're able to map that to our cookie and show how their digital media at a user level is driving people into the store, even though those folks never went to their website. And more important than that, we can show the stream of media across the many different touch points that users are seeing, which of those specific units are driving value. And so that's, I think it's just a broader aspect of what we're talking about. I think attribution...
To challenge you there, how do you statistically determine which of those multi-channel touch points drove the actual visit? You know, let's say 3 happen, which one?
Well, I would be glad to pull out a PowerPoint presentation and show everything. It's a data-driven approach. That is the core of what we do, is how do you fractionally allocate that credit? And then just doing things like trying and cross-device data just makes the underlying data set more accurate, which means the algorithmic data-driven approach can be more accurate. Tying in offline conversions just adds a new set of user-level conversions. So it's just, I want to make that distinction, right? We're really deep around measurement and attribution solution. All these things we're talking about just enhance the data that we use to do it more effectively.
So, crazy but true, you've been here for an hour. Yep, I told you. 8 o'clock. Yep, we've been here for an hour. So this happens to us all the time. So now I want to go to the audience for some questions, and then when we finish with those questions, it'll be the last opportunity to ask questions, so this is the moment. Then I'm going to have these guys go through a short case study where mobile has moved the needle for them so that we can take a little learning from it. And then afterwards, we have a room downstairs called the electric room, which is kind of cool. Bar's open. And they'll be all there to answer more questions. So sure. Mike?
Well, questions.
Yeah, this is definitely the question row. Like all the people, the only people who've asked questions are sat in this same row. I don't know what that means. Go ahead. Your name and where you're from, please.
I'm Renata, and I work at Horizon Media on a financial brand that focuses very much on branding. I actually have a question for you, Paul.
Sure.
We look a lot at attribution partners, and there's a lot of hesitation around those who are affiliated with a media partner. What do you guys do to ensure that there is no bias whatsoever? We've asked that question before directly of people and haven't gotten very specific answers. So if you could give me something specific, that would be really helpful.
Sure. So I had a very different answer 6 months ago than I do now. The reality, yes, we're owned by Google. Google's a massive media company. How do we create segregation? So we roll up under the Google Analytics team. That team's shown for the last 10 years that data is completely separate and segregated from the media business. We get leverage out of the media business because they know every CMO in the country, and that gives us entree so we can have this discussion around measurement. But we have strict policies about segregating that data and keeping that data separate. They've reinforced that through the acquisition of DoubleClick 5-6 years ago. Same thing, DoubleClick data set, completely separate and segregated from the media business. So I think it's more of a perception versus a reality. You know, long before I was at Adometry, I was a marketer like many people in this room, or working with agencies like many people in this room. And you know, there's this knee-jerk reaction to say, well, Google or even Facebook in their space is the 800-pound gorilla, and do you want to affiliate yourself with someone like that? My perspective as an independent company is I felt for an attribution solution, attribution is really about media measurement, and it has to be tied in very tightly with the transaction stack so that you can make the insights actionable. So keeping it as a third party, I thought risked becoming this ivory tower that would be separate from the media transaction side of the business. So being part of the DoubleClick and the Google side gives us the advantage of making our insights more scalable, more actionable, with the right segregations in place to make that work for advertisers.
Next question.
Happy to talk more about that too, one-on-one if you'd like.
Question. Yes, over here. Morgan. Thank you.
Right there.
There you go.
Hi, this is for Paul, and my name is Maria. I work at Maxis. I have a quick question. So now that you guys aren't using proxies for people who you can't track cookies for. How are you going to manage that gap of data? And are you going to look to something more probabilistic, like your friends at Tapad, to fill in the hole there?
Sure, so I want to make sure I understand the question. So we're still using cookies, and still continue to use cookies, and that helps us identify folks on their PC, on their laptops. Our cross-device capabilities through the Google Device Graph allows us to understand cookie deletion. So we'll see a user that's logged in, and we'll see 5 or 6 different cookies. That might be a user that's deleted cookies, so we'll map that data together. So we're not abandoning cookies, we still use it. It's still the primary way that we get data, because most of the media is still, a lot of it's still driven on desktops, and we still have cookies there. So we're still using that, we're just augmenting it now with this cross-device data.
Yeah, I guess I'm referring to an email I got talking about how for compliance with Safe Harbor, if the user has opted out from being tracked, having their cookies tracked, you can no longer use proxies.
Right, so if someone opts out, then we're going to honor that, and we won't track that user, we'll exclude that user from our analysis.
But how are you guys in turn going to manage that substantial gap of data?
She's asking tougher questions than I did.
The reality is we can look at the people that are being opted out. First, it's a relatively small number, and we can take the folks that we can track and use that to expand it across the entire audience.
So probabilistic?
No, that's not probabilistic. We have the same issue with the match rate. If we use Tapad's data,
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt. They're not going to go probabilistic.
Okay.
They're not going to.
How do you manage the gaps? Facebook just said that they have a 20% gap in the United States. So how do you
just as you have a gap too, we all do.
So what
the way we'll do it, if we do it live, right? You never get a 100% match rate.
All right, we gentlemen,
starting again.
I love it. They'll be at the bar doing shots later.
Okay, and for the record, I'm a huge fan of Adometry. I work with them. So they're great.
Excellent.
Tapad's great too.
They're fantastic.
There you go. All right, I'm going to take one more question because I think we're running short of time. And believe me, these guys are more than happy to ask questions. They'll be here for the rest of the evening. So it's
answer questions, actually. We'll ask questions.
We have someone who's not in this section, so clearly, thank you.
If we get the mic over here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Name and who you're with.
My name is Mike Reza. I'm with NYC Action Mobile.
Yeah.
I have a question for Dwight. This is regarding your.
Thank God.
Same.
That's what I'm saying.
Glad I'm on till we get started.
Yeah.
So this is regarding your Facebook pixel and retargeting across device. If you're looking at ads on the mobile web, but you aren't logged into Facebook, are you then missing out on that group of people? Because I know one of the solutions we tried to implement with Facebook was to use this retargeting device, and that was an issue that we came across. Like, you guys are basically under the assumption that people are logged into Facebook, but then most people are on Facebook via the app.
Yeah.
So where's that?
That is a tremendously perceptive question. There is a problem where a lot of people. I can dance around it. A lot of people.
You see, this is the difference when you put someone from product on panel instead of a salesperson.
But yes, a lot of people will be logged into the app. They're not actually logged into their native mobile browser, and we cannot remarket. We're actually a task force that is addressing this right now. We believe that we're still doing better identity, persistent identity cross-device than anybody else, but this is a gap that we're actively addressing. So,
nice question. All right. Patrick, really? You have a question?
Is the solution to that gap?
This is Patrick from Magnetic, our biggest troublemaker. All right.
So is the solution there a possible mobile pay through the Messenger app? Is that a way to track through the app?
Yeah, you could absolutely do that. We've actually got a different solution that I expect to see in about 4 weeks that we expect should address the problem, but that would be an alternate solution.
Okay, so I'm now going to have all the panelists go through their case studies. I'm going to start with you, Paul. You were too popular, so you get to go last. A panel like this, and then we'll go for drinks afterwards.
Great.
Case studies.
So I think there's an interesting one that we actually talked about last week. Television one is very different than the one I just mentioned. And I think it speaks to the idea of mobile as a very powerful attribution mechanism. So we actually worked with an agency a retailer and a television network. And the retailer, the large retailer, said, hey, just television, advertising on television, drive people into our stores. So as you heard, we have this mechanism, place visit rate, to measure from mobile devices how many people go in a store. So we said, hey, now we have this connection to TV, so we can measure the effect of television advertising to drive people in store. So we actually ran this big campaign whereby we targeted 3 groups. So this is a real case study. So 3 groups we targeted. One, we targeted people who, we targeted from the mobile ad, and they saw a television ad. We measured their store visitation. Second, we saw people who just saw the television ad, so they watched the television network. We saw that in the RentTrack data that carried advertising for this retailer. We measured their visitation to the store. And then thirdly, we looked at people who did not watch the television network. We did not hit them with a mobile ad. We measured their visitation to the store. And we looked at all the results. We sent them to the network. We sent them to RentTrack. We got them verified. What we found that was that from the people who watch no TV and no mobile to the people who just watch TV, we saw a 2x uplift in people visiting that store. We then looked at the third group, which was people who saw the TV ad or the mobile ad. There was a 4x uplift from no TV, no mobile. Then the network turned around to us and asked us to slice it a completely different way. It said, take out mobile, look at the group of people that you see visiting the retailer and segment them into 2 groups. People who watch TV advertising for our retailer and people who don't. And we saw a 4x uplift there. So we sliced it 2 ways, and what we were able to find was that people who watch the television network that carries an ad for this retailer have a much higher visitation, but then if you hit that group with a mobile ad, you can double that visitation as well. So we're not trying to say proven television advertising. What we're saying is we now have a measurement and attribution mechanism that uses the power of mobile to be able to measure television and the combined effect of television and mobile. And that was pretty exciting.
So you're also saying that hitting people on multiple devices is effective?
Absolutely.
Yep. Dwight.
So a quick story that may be illustrative of how important it is to do cross-device. We recently had a travel advertiser that was getting some okay results with Atlas, and it's interesting because this was right as we were integrating with them, so we got to phase in the parts of cross-device one at a time and see the incremental effect of lift. The first thing we added, obviously, was deterministic identity, which it wasn't head-to-head against Tapad, so I don't know how we're comparing. But compared to but compared to their previous solution, we instantly got a plus 50% lift in return on ad spend, and then we secondarily layered in the desktop to tablet conversions and got up to 3 times the original return on ad spend. So this is pretty consistent with what we see. It's a little on the higher end, but it's very consistent. Unless you are doing this cross-device, you are not getting your results.
Nick.
So I'm really bad with numbers, and I didn't prepare for this at all, so I don't have a solid case study. But
we only put you on the panel for comic release.
Yeah.
Have I added a number every single time on this phone? I think you have. Yeah.
I saw you practicing before. But we had a really interesting use case, which is probably not going to be applicable to anyone in this room, but I think it talks to the power of cross-device, not just being about mobile and tablet and desktop, etc. So we had a large printer manufacturer that approached us, and they said, we really want to get our printers in your device graph. We want to know which printers are related to which other devices in the household, because when those printers are actually out of ink, we want to find all of the other devices and say, hey, you're out of ink, time to go to Staples and buy some ink.
That's a great idea.
And so they actually updated the firmware in their printers, so it made a call to the device graph, and we eventually started tracking, tying together the printers with the other devices. And we actually ran a campaign where when you were low on ink, we said, hey, you're about to run out of this ink, go to X retailer and buy that ink. I have no idea what the control was and all that. You guys are very excited. But the client fucking loves it because we had the printer to the device graph.
First of all, that's really cool. Really cool.
Right.
And I do think that it speaks to the enormous amount of imagination we can all have with mobile. It just adds another dimensionality to what we do.
You'll be back next year with fridges. Fridges is at the top.
Actually, we have found the first Teslas in the device graph. But they're there.
Yeah. I just provide high level what we've seen across a lot of our clients, which is when you start measuring cross-device insights, our clients see a 20 to 40%, depends on the range, lift in their overall performance. In other words, what they're able to track. They see that conversion paths and conversion lengths increase. and it starts to change pretty dramatically what's driving results. So what they thought was really getting credit beforehand versus what's getting credit after the fact are really different. So again, that's high level. That's what we've seen across all of our clients who've been doing this for a while. I think it really reinforces the point that you have to look at user level attribution, and that means you have to understand user media consumption and user conversion activity as they're doing those things across their devices.
So thank you so much for coming. I sort of feel like even with all of the depth we went into here, we still only skimmed the surface. So I really hope that you'll join us. Drinks are in the electric, which is out there, down the stairs, through this white tiled area, and then there's a really cool kind of loungy area that I would encourage you all to go to. And thank you so much for coming.